President Biden is condemning anti-Semitism in the U.S. as protests against the Israel-Hamas war break out at universities across the nation. In the president's Passover message, he said anti-Semitism, quote, has absolutely no place on college campuses. He also pledged to continue to aggressively counter harassment and violence against Jewish people through his administration's national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. Nancy Cordes has more on this from the White House. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you. So how is the White House approaching these protests that are breaking out on college campuses?
Very carefully, Caitlin. In fact, just this afternoon, the president was giving a speech on the environment and Earth Day in Virginia. And afterwards, reporters asked him a couple of questions, and they asked him for his response to these anti-Semitic protests that have broken out on college campuses. And he had a very nuanced response. He said that he condemns any protests that are anti-Semitic, but that he also condemns those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. So an acknowledgement, it would seem that not all pro-Palestinian protests are tinged with anti-Semitism, and that this is a legitimate concern that many Americans and many progressives in particular have about the welfare of the Palestinian people. And so I think that that response gives you a sense of how the White House is trying to thread this needle, knowing that there has been an uptick in anti-Semitic threats, in anti-Semitic violence, and yet at the same time acknowledging that there is a very real concern about the plight of the Palestinian people that is shared, by the way, by many in this White House.
Yeah, and Nancy, I want to talk a little bit about the politics of all of that, because this is also a president obviously headed into his reelection. We saw in our own polling that its approval rating among young voters, particularly on the issue of the administration's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, has dipped significantly. How might this impact younger voters in particular? How is this administration kind of grappling with that idea?
It's a major concern. You know, his handling overall of the war in Israel over the past 6 months has fallen from a 44% approval rating to 33%. You have to assume that's probably even lower for young people who are particularly vocal, and they're also obviously a key part of his coalition. Interestingly, the president was at this Earth Day event today with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the New York Congresswoman, who has been not only outspoken when it comes to the environment, but also when it comes to the plight of the Palestinian people. And during his remarks, the president said something interesting. He praised AOC, and he said, "I learned a long time ago, listen to that lady, and we're going to talk more about another part of the world." So he seemed to be suggesting that not only was he going to talk to her about the environment, but that he was going to talk to her about Gaza as well. And we saw the two of them, along with Bernie Sanders, coming back from that event here at the White House and entering the Oval Office. So perhaps that conversation took place right after the event.
Ah, fascinating spotting. Nancy Cordes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And for more on this, let's bring in our panel, Dave Weigel and Deepa Shivaram. Dave is national political reporter for Semaphore, and Deepa is White House correspondent for NPR. Guys, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. Let's talk about kind of the political pressures facing Biden involving this. I mean, it was really interesting what Nancy said there. And of course, we've seen this through the primaries, the pressure that we've seen through voters. But Deepa, I'm curious how the White House is kind of handling this, how they should be handling this, what they should be concerned about.
I mean, I think we can just start with any time the president goes out on the road, right? It could be somewhere as close as Virginia. It could be Florida, where he's going tomorrow. It could be North Carolina. I have been on the road with him for months now since he kicked off this reelection campaign. There are protesters who are protesting the president's stance on Israel, the United States' aid to Israel, and calling the president Genocide Joe. It is everywhere you go in this country, and it follows the president everywhere he goes. Even, I remember one time in Texas, we were woken up at like 5 in the morning by protesters. So this is something that is constantly present for the president, for this White House. And in his remarks today, I mean, you can see that he's trying to toe this line and sort of have it both ways. But at the end of the day, I mean, you look at those poll numbers, especially among younger voters who have been very vocal about this issue consistently since October 7th. This is something that they are still trying to figure out. And there isn't exactly a right answer here. here, but you look at Joe Biden's history with Israel. I mean, he has called himself a Zionist. This is something that he feels personally very strongly about. And you're seeing them sort of try to grapple, what the president believes is the right thing to do with what voters are really looking for here.
Yeah. What about that tension, Dave?
Well, one other piece of tension here, it was the Earth Day event. We haven't talked that much about Earth Day. He was there at the event partly to announce this thing, the Climate Conservation Corps. There was a huge AOC Green New Deal priority. It was a Sunrise Movement priority. I was at a protest the Sunrise Movement did at outside the White House a couple of years ago, demanding this, and they got it. And that part of the base does not care. The Sunrise Movement has moved on to Palestinian rights activism, Gaza activism. So it is. All the polling you showed is what we have seen on the trail among not just younger Democrats but all Democrats. Support for the war in Israel is plummeting, and Gallup's polling it's in the 30s. And I think Joe Biden's age is a factor here. For younger Democrats, I'd say Democrats under age 60 even, they don't remember a time when Israel was really under threat. Where Israel now, would there be terrorism? Israel, yes, but not a situation like 1973 where Israel could be wiped off the map. And the attempt to get Democrats all thinking that way, the way Joe Biden thinks, it's not working. Younger Democrats have seen Israel as the aggressor. He cannot, with a speech or with a couple of statements, he cannot square that. He needs Israel to do what it's done other conflicts and back off and not continue the invasion. It's not really up to anything he can say domestically. It's about the situation in the country.
Yeah, and Deepa, I mean, I'm curious too, because the administration will likely have to make the argument, okay, well, however upset you are with us, here's the alternative on the other side. I mean, how does that resonate?
And they're trying and they're trying and they're trying. And I think you hear White House officials and campaign officials say, not everyone's paying attention yet, right? We still have 6 months to go. People are going to clock in later this year. They've already seen these two candidates face off in 2020. Like, it's going to be a more delayed kind of engagement point with this election. But it's hard to be pointing at Trump when there are so many people who are concerned about these issues. One thing I think is really interesting that they're trying to do is they recognize that young people are very fired up about this. And so they're trying to talk about other issues that young people are fired up about, climate change being one of them, gun control being one of them, and try to focus and say, I know you're not really happy about this, but, here are these things that we are doing that if Trump were to be reelected, or Trump to be elected again, would kind of get rolled back. And so there is sort of a two-lane thing where they are sort of trying to muddle with this issue while they focus on other things that they know drum up their base.
Yeah, and to your point, this happened at the Roe versus Wade event in Virginia.
Right.
They were talking about abortion, and people, and you were there in the audience. People were saying, "What about reproductive rights in Gaza?"
Of course,
and they derailed the event.
And same with gun control. Like, I hear that from voters I talked to. I talked to one voter who lives in Vermont. He called himself Trump curious, and guns is something he owns guns, he uses guns, and he agrees with Democrats on the issue. But he keeps hearing that argument of, like, Democrats keep saying people have a right to security, but what about people in Gaza? Do they not have a right to security? It constantly is coming up with every issue that's on the ballot.
Yeah, and abortion too. I've heard that argument as well. I do want to talk about the big news of the day, which was that the former president, for the first time in our country's history, was standing in the first criminal trial, opening statements. Dave, I'm curious. I mean, we've seen him come out kind of every day during jury selection and say this is taking him away from the campaign trail. This is a political witch hunt. But how is he balancing all of this, being in the courtroom while also on the campaign? Is it beneficial? Is it hurting him? What can we glean?
I think the news of the indictments definitely helped him, and we saw that in the campaign finance numbers. We saw that. I remember the reaction almost exactly a year ago when he first posted that Alvin Bragg was going to do this. They raised a lot of money that day. His then opponents for the nomination all came out and condemned it, except for Nikki Haley at the time. And he even, I remember asking some of them about the protests that Trump called for. What's going to happen about these protests that might come outside courthouses? We haven't seen much of that. There have been diminishing returns for him getting people riled up about these. It is part of the atmosphere now for Republican voters, the sense that he is being treated unfairly. So he's not making much money off this, and he's not able to get into the news cycle. I think it does freeze some things that Democrats would love to talk about. They would love to talk about what he says at fundraisers about tax policy, and it doesn't come up because what we're hearing instead are details of the trial and these arguments in the trial that I mean, you've talked to Democrats, people talk to Democrats, they don't think this moves people who already have made their minds up about Trump.
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting talking to the Biden White House or the Biden campaign communications director say, what I asked, he said, well, we're not focused on that. We're focused on this. So it'll be interesting, though, to see the repetition of him being in the courtroom, if that does anything to sway voters one way or the other. Deepa, Dave, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Good. Thanks for your reporting.